Welcome to the Widows Collective, where grief meets hope, healing, and community. I'm Lauren Lentz, grief coach, fellow widow, and the heart behind this space. There is life before loss, and then there is life after. If you're here, it likely means your life has been turned upside down by the death of your person. Maybe you've just found yourself in this new world that feels unrecognizable, or maybe you've been walking it for a while, trying to figure out what healing looks like now. I want you to know you are not alone. This podcast is a gathering place for widows living in the after. Together, we'll name the ache, honor the love, and share tools, truths, and stories that help you feel supported along the way. My hope is that every episode gives you a sense of community, comfort, and permission to meet yourself exactly where you are. Hello, and welcome back. Today's episode is called Valentine's Day in the After. And before we unpack that, I want to pause here for a moment because Valentine's Day can land very differently depending on the relationship you had with it before your person died. For some, you may have really loved Valentine's Day. You celebrated it. You looked forward to it. It mattered. And for you, this day may feel especially sharp because it's marking something you once shared and now don't. And then there are others of you who never really cared for the day at all. Maybe it felt commercial. Maybe it felt cheesy. Maybe it was just another day on the calendar. And yet, even for you, this day can still feel heavy because widowhood has a way of making love louder, more visible, harder to look away from. So whether Valentine's Day used to mean everything or almost nothing, you are welcome here today. What I've noticed both in my own grief and in the work I do with widows is that days centered around love have a way of magnifying our absence. It's not always loud. Sometimes it's subtle. An extra exhaustion in your body that you can't sleep off, or an ache that seemingly came out of nowhere. Love-centered days tend to bring the relationship into stronger focus, not just the loss, but the connection itself. Because, as I mentioned in the last episode, love doesn't disappear when someone dies. It continues to live in you, in your body, in your heart, in your memories, in the way your nervous system learned what safety and closeness felt like. And when the world turns its attention toward love, it can gently, or not so gently, remind you of where the love now resides. These days can stir something deep and layered within us. A remembering of what you shared, a grief for what no longer looks the way it once did, and a recognition of how much love is still very much alive within you. So Valentine's Day, anniversaries, weddings you attend, they can feel tender, not because of just the day itself, but because they highlight the ongoing physical presence of others' love alongside the absence of yours. And that experience doesn't depend on how you used to celebrate a holiday or an anniversary or a wedding. Kevin and I weren't really Valentine's Day people. We didn't do extravagant dinners or big gestures. He used to half-jokingly say, "I show my love to you daily." And the joke wasn't that he didn't. He absolutely did. It was more that he didn't really buy into what he called those made-up holidays. And that was fine with me. So when the first Valentine's Day came around after he died, it wasn't that I suddenly felt like I needed to celebrate. It was more like I needed relief. Relief from the constant reminders, relief from the void that his absence created, relief from how loud love felt everywhere I looked. So I took myself on a short getaway to Palm Springs, not at all as a celebration, definitely more as a distraction. I spent the day laying out in the sun. I tried my best to enjoy myself like I knew Kevin would have wanted for me. And for a while, it worked. That night, I took myself out to dinner, and somewhere in the middle of the meal, it hit me. I'm here, alone, without my favorite person, without the one I want to share this with. I wrapped up the meal quickly and I went up to this little rooftop area the hotel had. It was quiet. No one else was there. I laid down on a couch and I looked up at the night sky. So expansive, so full of stars. And I just started bawling. I remember thinking, how is he up there and not here? How is this my life? I cried uncontrollably for 15, 20 minutes. And then I went back down to my room, turned on the fireplace, grabbed every ridiculously overpriced bag of chocolate in the room, turned on the TV, and curled up into myself. No strength, no fixing, no reframing, just grief in its rawest form. The next morning, I woke up feeling two things at once. I was still deeply sad, and I also felt lighter. Not because my grief had magically disappeared, but because I had stopped resisting it. Giving myself permission to feel whatever I needed to feel and to be whoever I needed to be in that moment was incredibly therapeutic. I was telling another widow sister this story recently, and she laughed and said, I would never. Were you crazy? That's like intentionally going out of your way to make yourself sad. And she wasn't wrong, but it made me realize something important. Maybe that's what I needed. And maybe when she was in the thick of early grief, she needed something completely different. And neither one of us was doing something incorrect. This is the part I really want to land today. There is no right way to do Valentine's Day and the after. Some widows need distraction. Some need connection. Some need solitude. Some need to cry. Some need to avoid the day altogether. Grief isn't asking you to get this right. It's asking you to listen to your body, to your capacity, to what feels supportive today, not what should feel supportive. One of the hardest parts of days like Valentine's Day isn't just your own grief. It's the way the world keeps moving as if nothing has changed. You might still have to go to work. You might still have to show up for your kids. You might still have to answer texts or smile at a cashier or scroll past pictures of flowers and dinners and happy couples. And that can feel incredibly disorienting because inside something sacred has been lost and outside everything else looks the same. There is a quiet loneliness in that, a sense of being out of sync with the world around you. You might notice yourself pulling inward or feeling irritated by things that never used to bother you, or wondering how everyone else seems to be moving forward while you're still learning how to breathe in this new reality. If that's happening for you, I want you to know that your experience makes sense. Widowhood doesn't just change your relationship, it changes how you experience time, connection, and meaning. So if Valentine's Day feels heavy, not because of what you're doing, but because of what you're carrying, you're not alone in that. Sometimes the grief isn't about the day itself. It's about realizing that the world can hold joy and celebration at the very same time you're holding heartbreak. And that's a lot for one body, one heart, one nervous system to hold. So if all you do that day is make it through, that is not failure. That is grief lived honestly. If Valentine's Day feels extra tender this year, I want to offer a few gentle possibilities. Not as instructions or a checklist, just as options you can hold and see what fits. A lot of this is about trial and error. You might decide to stay home and cry, and I'm not talking about the type of crying that's neat and tidy, but the kind where you just let yourself come undone. You don't have to clean it up. You don't have to make it meaningful. You don't have to come out of it with clarity or insight. Sometimes grief just needs a place to move. You might choose to plan a Galentine's night. Low expectations, familiar faces, nothing fancy. Maybe it's takeout on the couch. Maybe it's laughter mixed with tears. Maybe it's just not being alone in your body that night. You don't have to talk about grief the whole time, and you don't have to pretend you're okay either. You might decide to honor your spouse by doing something you love together. going to a place that still holds them, watching a movie you both love, listening to music that brings them close. Not as a means to relive the loss, but to acknowledge that love still lives in you. Or maybe you try to make a special treat they enjoyed, something simple, something familiar. And as you do, notice the memories rising, the ordinary, intimate ones, the ones that don't always make it into the stories, but live quietly in you. You might take a walk, write them a letter, sit in silence. No agenda, no outcome, just you noticing what's here. And you might choose distraction, a show, a book, a nap, scrolling, anything that gives your mind and body a break. That is not weakness. And it isn't avoidance when it's chosen with care. And even if it is avoidance, that's okay too. Sometimes your system needs rest more than reflection. None of these choices cancel your love. None of them mean you're doing grief wrong. Sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is make the day survivable. That can be more than enough. Valentine's Day and the after isn't about moving on or rushing yourself to move forward. It isn't about proving how strong you are, and it isn't about doing grief correctly. It's about living inside love when the person you loved is no longer here. It's about carrying something real and enduring in a world that keeps asking you to dim the pain and the love. So if today looks messy, if it looks quiet, if it looks like tears or laughter or numbness or distraction, recognize that it means you're human and that you love deeply. However you show up for yourself, however you make it through the day, that's the right way. Thank you for being here with me today. Thank you for letting me sit with you in this. As always, take gentle care of yourself. And if you're looking for a safe place to carry all this alongside other women who truly get it, I'd love to invite you to my free workshop on February 25th. We'll talk more about my group program, Reimagine, which begins mid-March, and we'll spend time exploring why loneliness so often feels amplified inside of grief. You'll find the link in the show notes and in my bio on Instagram. And if it feels easier, you're always welcome to email me directly at lauren@I'mSorryWe'reFriends.com, and I'll share the link with you personally. I would love to see you there. Until next time, big hugs and lots of love. You've been listening to the Widows Collective. I'm Lauren Lentz, and it means so much to me that you spent this time here today. If you found comfort or connection in today's episode, I invite you to please subscribe, leave a rating, or share it with someone who might need a little support. You can also follow me on Instagram at I'mSorryWe'reFriends and join my email list at laurenlentz.com to explore my one-to-one grief coaching, group program, retreats, and other tools designed to help widows navigate loss with understanding and guidance. I hope you'll join me next week for another conversation where we'll continue exploring grief, healing, and ways to reimagine life after loss. I'm sorry you're here, and I'm so grateful that you are. Thank you for being a part of this community. Your presence is an act of courage and self-compassion, and I'm honored to walk this path alongside you.